and what precedent does the ruling set for internal democracy within political parties? To examine these issues and their implications for Nigeria's democratic process, especially the 2027 general election, which is just months away, will be joined by a lawyer, George Itodo, to provide perspectives, clarifications, and analysis on this developing situation. We also examine the predicaments of opposition political parties in the run-up to this election. Key opposition parties are all embroiled in one tussle, internal conflict, litigation, or the other. Talk of the NDC. A High Court has ordered INEC to withdraw has withdrawn the order I gave INEC to register NDC. ADC, court problems not ending anytime soon. PDP has its own fair share, and our court party, its presidential candidate, is in court insisting that the party must upload its name to the server of the Independent National Electoral Commission as its candidate after the party said they will be not doing otherwise. So big opposition political parties involved in one crisis or the other. How will it play out in the elections? My colleagues are here with me. Mustafa Mohammed is here, Shola Jaisimi is here, and Ujweje is also here. Gentlemen of the press, welcome to the program. It's problems for all the major political parties, the opposition ones. Is it normal? Is it just a normal evolution of party process, or is there more to it?
This time is actually very different. When you are counting months and weeks for the 2027 general election to start, now you have judgment, various verdicts affirming or reversing or revoking the various judgment that has been given. Definitely, this will affect stability, preparation for the general election. And if we continue like this, and if it doesn't favor those parties that are having this problem, it means we might end up having just 1, 2, or 3 parties contesting in the general election. And of course, this is not good for democracy. I still remember the caution by some Chief Justices of Nigeria in the past, where they admonish judges and justices to avoid giving frivolous judgment. Cases must be studied very well so that judges should avoid reversing themselves in the future. And of course, any credible election without a viable opposition, it will still, reflect on the credibility of that election. My hope and prayer is that those issues and problems will be able to get solution before the election comes. If you have courts asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to reverse recognition or reverse registration, the largest opposition at the moment, it's not the People's Democratic Party, it's the NDC and ADC. If you remove them, then which other big party would be there to challenge the ruling APC?
Okay, first of all, I think we need to establish the fact that it's the Court of Appeal that has given this verdict, and thankfully, the Court of Appeal is not the final bus stop for judicial disputes, be they political or what have you. And the ADC, from what we're reading, even as we'll have Mr. Itodo, a member of that party, speak to us on the program, has said it will go to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So it's not yet over, so to say. But the key elements which we have mentioned, which we as the media must continue to speak about, is the need for those who seem to have the long end of the stick now to allow opposition parties breathe. Because any democracy without viable opposition, strong opposition, that democracy is purely dead. So Mustafa's points are valid, and that's why we're talking about it. It's not like a case of we are lampooning the justice of the Court of Appeal. No, that's not what we're doing. We're plainly just saying, look, judges, officers, ministers in the temple of justice, look at the facts before you and rule in line with those facts. So those ones that the Court of Appeal now have ruled based on the facts that were adduced before them by all the parties involved, the plaintiff, the defendants. It's now left for David Mark and his team to head to the Supreme Court and seek to overturn
And they
this.
said they are already going to the Supreme Court.
Exactly. So those are the key elements we must play up, because like we normally say, the rule of law is the rule of law. If a judge, like our colleague, normally reminds us, if a judge went and took Brukutu,
Or
Tumbu,
Kai.
Kai, Sapele water, anything that, he may have taken or she may have taken, and comes to that the open court, and gives a pronouncement, you have to obey until you appeal. So there's no Privy Council now. Let all of them in this issue head to the Supreme Court, adduce their arguments, and hope to get the best. I hope the ADC is not shut out due to anything from the courts, so that everybody will test his popularity or her popularity with the Nigerian people. 94 million of them now who have permanent voter cards. Let them
And
decide.
counting.
Exactly.
For me, you notice that I wasn't too eager to jump into the discussion, because sometimes it can be a bit demoralizing, especially when people are talking, people who know, people are appealing to make the process a very fair process. And you see things working in the opposite direction. What do you call this? It's certainly a recipe for confusion. A recipe for disorganization. How do parties prepare for elections with this kind of one good judgment today, one unfavorable one tomorrow, and today they are all up and eager, preparing towards the election. The next is like, oh God. I mean, it's like a system programmed against opposition politics in this country, opposition parties, and to keep them in disarray so that they would not have the muscles to contest the election, or maybe not even contest at all. Like Shola has pointed out, I mean, how do you conduct an election where vibrant opposition parties are not included? I think that the powers that be, the unseen hands behind these things, should caution themselves.
Adam Smith.
Well, I'm putting my
hands in the market.
well,
Market forces, he calls it. These are political forces now.
yes,
Political
political forces. The unseen hands behind these things should take Nigeria into consideration. Last week we appealed. We said, think Nigeria first. Think about the Nigerian people. All of these is confusing, even for the polity. Is it also making Nigerians demoralized towards the election? Some of them may not even pick up their voters card the way this thing is going, and with the negative vibes that it's carrying along with it. Opposition must be involved. If opposition is involved, how do you test your popularity? Shola made that clear. Most of us alluded to that. And then it's like you're doing everything possible to muzzle the opposition. If you want to give full judgment, give full judgment. If you don't want to give, don't give. So they know where they stand. They know how to prepare. They know where they are headed to. It's just, I don't know. It's just so confusing and demoralizing.
Those in the ruling party will say their hands are not in any way involved with this. They would have seriously and variously washed their hands off it.
Nobody mentioned them.
Yeah, I know.
They are still hands.
Yes, for those that have mentioned them, they have said, we are not party to these cases. These cases emanated from membership tussle. We are not members of your party. For instance, the ADC case, some chairmen of states went to court and ordered. For NDCs, the political group that sought to register with the same symbol going to go. So they point at it and say, it's not our problem. It's your own problem. The president has also spoken to it. It is your problem. Go and solve your problem, even though he's happy with what is happening. But you have raised very beautiful points. When you look at the fact that they are all of them are key opposition parties, then if you're a researcher, that's what you call informed guess. You make an informed guess based on these similarities.
And unfortunately,
there is an interest behind it. Now, that interest, whatever it is, wherever it's coming from, should also consider our national interest. In the run-up to an election and when our democratic process is being eroded, because erosion of principles and democratic process starts gradually till the entire thing collapses. I consider this a national security issue. I consider this a threat
an
to our
emergency.
democracy. You have all said it. Our democracy can thrive only when there is a viral
Vibrant.
And fair contest.
opposition. So, for the sake of our nation, for the sake of our democracy, those interests, if it exists, instigating this crisis, should desist. Because some people have said perhaps the strategy is to destabilize the opposition so that a few weeks to the election, they will be battling to resolve the crisis and be weakened in the process.
But
A
the
good
question is
example is-
whether these people at the what lawyers call ab initio at the beginning have put their houses in order before the process of the party registration started. And I wouldn't blame the APC because it's the same people in the PDP, CPC, ACN and other parties that later kept moving from one party to the other, and many of them ended up in the ADC and NDC and Labour Party and whatever other party you would want to mention. Have they done the needful before this very moment? Most of these issues that you see in this court have to do with the process of registration. And if they have not done the needful, it means at the beginning of the whole thing, they have shot themselves in the foot. And now they are struggling to stand by. But we hope and pray that they will be able to solve these problems within the judicial system, the hierarchy of the court, because you can still go to the Supreme Court so that they can still be able to stand as viable opposition in the 2027 general election. You are talking about January, February, and we are already in July. How many months remaining? You are talking about barely 6 months. And even if it's 1 month that you have to get prepared, it's never too small for a politician. It's all about your catchment area, your resources, your manpower, and what have you. The only party that is grounded now is APC. Maybe they are able to solve many of their in-house problems resulting or emanating from the terrible primaries in court they had, where the governors had upper hand, push some people out because they don't like their faces. But many of them has also said some of these people that they push out will still fight back during the election and do a lot of anti-party activities.
So, these are very, very strange happenings, you know. It had never been like this from 1999 to date. And then again, it reminds me of the contest in Ondo State when two justices were locking hands. Senior advocates of senior advocates of Nigeria, two of them, I think Jegede and later Akeredolu. And Jegede kept for governorship election, and then Jegede kept going in and out of court. And then finally, I think he got the final judgment about 2 or 3 days to the election. And then what could he do? How could he mobilize? How could he actually organize? And he lost that election, but some persons believe that he did not lose it fairly and squarely because of the way the courts made it impossible for him to be able to prepare. We are seeing almost like a replay, but this time at the national level, and this time we're not even looking just at the presidential elections. The presidential election, I beg your pardon. We're looking at other elections. You have the legislative elections, the Senate, the House of Reps, the state houses of assembly. So a whole lot of people are being affected by what is going on. The David Mark-led group have actually conducted their congresses. They have their candidates. And it was just left for them to upload the names. Okay, the other group, we don't know about any other group that conducted congresses because the court has recognized David Mark as the authentic leader. And you see this kind of confusion. So you're talking about confusion down the line, not just one election.
Okay. So I'll just say that as much as possible, what we could push for is for the Supreme Court to give this request, appeal, of the ADC accelerated hearing, so that they can clear the air for this opposition party to get its house in order to be able to contest favorably in this election. That's our own appeal to the justices of the Supreme Court. And the reason is not far-fetched. It's because, if the justices, put this in the docket, do this, do that, and say, okay, we have a plethora of cases we're dealing with. Nowadays the justices also deal with chieftaincy, land matters, and all those things. And they say, let this case be where it has come. It will not help the opposition. So justices can also help those who are aggrieved to get justice by giving it, repeating again, accelerated hearing. Mustafa raised a fundamental point. How do you get into the ring to battle? Like, I remember when I was in Unilag, there were a couple of persons. Eventually, we found out that they were not students of Unilag.
Non-academic.
Yes. They go to lecture with us. They have room in is it Marire Hall? Or is it Shoda Hall? They are living with books and everything, but they were not students. They were never matriculated. I'm telling you, these are real facts. In fact, one of them
is not peculiar to Unilag.
I eventually found out that he was an officer of one of the intelligence services. So the way you get in is very, very important. How you get into the game. So these political parties, the ADC zone was very, very peculiar. The leader of the party, I'm reminding us, all of us here, so that we have a balanced perspective to this. Cornered the leader, Rafun Osu, give us your party. The man said, why not? So that we can fight those in government who are not making things, in their own words, better for Nigerians. But did they carry everybody along? And another leg to my point is this.
No, but that issue was amicably resolved within the party hierarchy.
No, but it was bust out. It didn't.
It was, because Ralph Nwosu himself came out and he gave a speech. He sent out a statement to say that he was willing, and he did it willingly. Nobody coerced him.
Matthew Bala says no.
Exactly.
That's just one.
The other side of the whole party. That's why I spoke here the other day.
What other side?
I said, as much as possible, let's not give national chairman of parties the whole powers of the party. We can see the impact here now, where you carry your NWC along, you carry the NEC along as the chair of your party, then you know that you're safe and dry. But another point, lest we forget, the man who is the chief coordinator of things for the president of this country, he was at that, birthday party of a key member of the ADC, Apechide, and said, scatter them. Telling him,
you're making reference to the chief of staff, Femi Bajabia.
Yes, Mr. Bajabia.
Say stay in ADC.
And scatter them. Yes. But Abejide has left that party. He has been giving
scattering what he could scatter and destabilizing them.
So the issue here is, when there is a threat to national security, when there is a threat to our democracy, behoves on people of right conscience to raise this threat, point it out early. Some persons may be enjoying it. Some person can rationalize it. Yes, these problems were caused by this, caused by that. But it goes beyond this explanation. You don't use power maximally. The best way to use power is to use power minimally. There are extents to which you can insist on legalities. If you, for political expedience, there are certain things you are allowed to happen. Like I said, former military head of state told us that Alliance for Democracy was not qualified to be registered as a political party.
Yes.
But because of political expediency, because of the need to ensure security, peace, and stability of the country, the government looked the other one, had it registered. Now, those interests that are pushing that seem to be enjoying it now. They appear not to be, they are looking at the short-term benefits. There are long-term implications, because if you go to a democratic contest and you're clearly beaten in an objective contest, you go home, lick your wounds, and prepare for the next election. But when you lose in a democratic process and you feel shortchanged, that tendency for you to resort to self-help, to right wrongs, is a major issue.
Let me join with Shola to also make an appeal to the Supreme Court that in deciding this case, in coming up with whatever they would, let them consider the Nigerian people. Let them consider the polity. Let them consider what was put into reclaiming democratic rule in this country and what may happen, God forbid, if anything happens to this democracy. It's very, very important. Nigeria first.
I like to, go back, then come forward.
So you want to go back and forth?
I want to go back a little, and you will permit me.
You remember that song, Back and Forth?
No, mine is not back and forth.
Yes.
Mine is just a scenario of we look back. When we now look back, we can look at your antecedents. And with due respect, with utmost respect, profound respect, if you go to Lagos, that's my state of, where I come from and all, and I can talk about the politics there, though I've been in Abuja now 25 years plus. I've always looked, and I said it way back, before this program debuted on television. I said, you look at current President Bola Tinubu's antecedents as a politician, a very smart politician, a very dynamic politician, someone who knows his onions. He knows how to play his cards very well. But what was the fate of the opposition in Lagos when he was governor?
Scattered them.
Many of you know.
I don't know.
I know because
Yes.
I was in the midst of it, yes.
There were strong opposition to his...
No. By the time he came in, let me tell you what happened. By the time he came in, he weakened the APP. In fact, at a point in time, the APP decided to merge with AD. They went into an election. By the time the election was successful, APP ended up getting
Remember that the
absolutely
PDP also
nothing.
weakened the AD in 2003.
You're looking at the national level. He's talking
to weaken AD and took state.
No, he's talking about Lagos State. We are just solely in Lagos State right now. He weakened Afenifere. That was when, for the first time, factionalization.
Fight for survival.
Factionalization came
federal
into
forces. You resort to state forces to
Afenifere. And then NADECO too became divided. It had never happened before then.
Okay.
It has to do with the integrity of the individual. How do you allow yourself to be used to weaken your own party? Sometimes they will ask you to merge. Sometimes they will ask you to give up or ask you to support a particular cause, and you will be given this and that. Most times, because of the poverty, a lot of politicians will also settle for bread and butter. That's where it's happening now. That's why a lot of them are running to the APC, including state governors, National Assembly members, party chairman from other parties. I think it has to do with the integrity of the individual. Are you really a politician? Do you really want to stay in the opposition? That's $1 million question.
Well, just to also state that, was it not Obasanjo that encouraged the formation of the Yoruba Council of Elders?
Yes,
as a way of
Justice Thompson, led by Justice Thompson.
Yes. We have to get back to history to clarify.
Yes, but
all this.
even
but they happen in the past does not mean it should happen.
But you see, the Yoruba
Present.
Council of Elders, led by late Justice Ladi Thompson, was made up of those who did not really agree with Awois or the Baba Abraham Adesanyas of those days, and they wanted to be alone. They didn't balkanize Afenifere and take the members away. And then, of course, you know that AD also was balkanized, and the breakaway faction became PAC. And of course, the Tinubu faction at that time would say, let's pack them away. And eventually, these were men who really fought for this democracy. They were left with nothing.
The wider implication is that in democracy, in political struggle, sometimes they say all is fair in war and love. Mm-hmm. But when you go by that extreme position, the consequences are always grievous. Let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll bring in our guest barrister, George Itodo, that will break down the judgment of the Court of Appeal concerning state congresses conducted by David Mark-led ADC. Implications for the party and implications for the next general election. We'll meet with him after this short break. Do stay with us.
Did you know it's possible to gain much more than just an education at a university? Veritas University, education is not just about earning a living. It's about personal transformation. It's about discovering purpose. It's about defining destiny. That's why we operate a fully residential system set in a serene environment with world-class ICT facilities, a hands-on skills booth program, medicine, law, and an award-winning software engineering department, a vibrant debating culture, and modern sporting facilities. universities. We blend character and academic excellence to raise the leaders of tomorrow. We are the first and only Nigerian university to win the African Telecommunication Union Innovation Challenge, the only Nigerian university to win the Commonwealth and Pan-African Universities Debating Championships, and the first African university to reach the finals of the World Universities Debating Championship, standing alongside Harvard and Oxford. At Veritas University, we don't just produce graduates, we produce leaders who shape the future of their generation. Veritas University, seeking the truth.
Good news for eligible Nigerian citizens. The ongoing continuous voter registration exercise has been extended to Sunday, the 26th of July, 2026, giving you more time to register.
The easiest part, starting from Wednesday, 8th July, you can start and complete your registration online using your phones, tablets, or smart devices.
Your fingerprint and photograph can now be captured online. Just visit cvr.inecnigeria.org to register.
Remember, the physical registration option is still available at all INEC states, local government offices, and designated centers.
No more excuses. Don't wait till the last minute. Register today.
This message is brought to you by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, making your vote count, consolidating our democracy.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Our guest has joined us virtually, George Itodo, a lawyer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, court cases flying up and down, judgments emanating from them. The latest, that of the Court of Appeal, split judgment. Two justices said ADC erred by way of the leadership interfering with the tenure of state executive, and so Congresses conducted should be disregarded. One justice saying no, it is an internal affairs of the party that the court should not even entertain in the first place. But the minority has its say, the majority have their way. For now, at the Court of Appeal, let's get your perspectives.
Yes, about that judgment, and I'd rather deal with even the necessity of that appeal. I think ADC sometimes should try to avoid certain things that tend to create this media leverage against the party. Was this appeal even necessary? If you ask me, no. Now, as it is today, I think this July, the legitimate tenure of those state executives will be expiring. Although I was earlier on this TV, I said that judgment from Justice Abdul Malik was not even necessary, in the sense that I'm aware that the congresses conducted by David Mark, the persons elected by virtue of that congresses, were not to assume power until after the expiration of the tenure of the current state executives. Mm-hmm. So, in as much as the court is of the view that, okay, probably the congresses were premature in nature, in the sense that they were held while this people's term was still elapsed, probably. But I think the fear of the state executive was that their tenure was going to be terminated, their tenure was going to be cut short. But the party made it clear.
Is it not an aberration? How will you conduct elections when tenure of expired. Those sitting are not anywhere near being exhausted?
No. Before you can really consider whether you are tempered with the tenure of the executive, it's not by the virtue of the conduct of the election. It is the swearing in that determines whether a tenure of the existing office holders, position or whatever, have been tampered with. It's not because, in as much as the election were conducted, if they are not sworn in as state executives, I don't think their time start running, their time start counting, neither has the other people's time been interfered with.
But
however, this whole thing is, like I said, it may be self-inflicted. If you know that, okay, these people are not going to assume power until when these people's legal tenure has elapsed, then what is even the necessity of that, the whole Congress? Then assuming The Congress had been conducted. Justice Abdul Malik, before it went to the Court of Appeal, had said, okay, no, the Congress, whatever is illegal by virtue of interference with the current existing state executive tenure. Then what is now the need of appeal? What do you need to do? Wait for the appropriate time, re-ratify the Congress or reconduct the Congress. Exactly. But this was not even necessary. That is on the merit of the whole circumstance, because Congress or not, whoever you have elected are not even sitting members now. And as I'm talking to you right now, I think the tenure of those sitting now are now naturally elapsed. So rather than going on appeal, I would have rather suggest that conduct the Congress now. But it wasn't even necessary, all this old media creating because if you notice, there are a lot of media reports misrepresented that ruling. If you have not read it, some said, oh, David Mark has been restrained from acting as party chairman. This, that, a lot of interpretations. All this wouldn't have been necessary.
So the judgment, the deed, how does it affect the candidates whose name have been uploaded by ADC to INEC portal for the 2027 elections?
They've not been uploaded.
No. Those are two different issues. That the names uploaded has nothing to do with this judgment information. It's about the tenure of the current sittings, whatever. And I think at the time those elections were held, primary elections were held, they were the sitting state executive members. I think it has no impact on it does not affect them to the best of my knowledge, because even at the time those primary were conducted, it is those now. Those who are being recognized by court that were the sitting state executive members. So I don't think it will affect the uploading, if at all it has been uploaded. I don't see any bearing with it.
All right. These things that you have pointed out, did the legal practitioners within the party ever point this out to the national executive to let them know that these appeals are not necessary, the issues that you have raised now, were they ever tabled at any point in time?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a member of the National Working Committee. I don't know what was presented within the internal of the party. But this is more of my personal opinion. It wasn't necessary. It's about tenure. Tenure. What do you do? Wait. The tenure. This is July. I think it's about to elapse in this July. Why not wait? Or June also. Why not wait? Conduct a Congress. Both the old executives and those you intend to bring in, they are all members of ADC. They ought to be of one party. If they have agreed, okay, my tenure has not elapsed, and from the day you even conducted that Congress, your intention was that they should assume power after the tenure of this war has elapsed. So this is like just unnecessary circumstance or unnecessary scenario. If not, if the intention was for them to assume power while the tenure was still running, then that would have been a different case or whatever. The intention from the start was after that Congress, they are to assume office after the expiration of the tenure of these persons.
Okay, so Barrister Todo, you've more or less said that the David Mark led National Working Committee of the ADC should have done better. That's what you're implying. But looking at all of this from the perspective of, because you say you're not a member of the national leadership, I'm trying to find out from you, are you a member of the ADC?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So as a member of the ADC who has, legal experience, I don't know how many years you've been at the bar, but you're talking a lot of gusto about what you know about, party politics. Don't some of you try and get across to the national leadership to give your legal perspectives on the direction the National Working Committee or the neck of the ADC ought to be taking?
No, I think those are more of an exclusive of the National Legal Advisor who is a member of the National Working Committee. The best we could do is to say, like the last time I was on air, even when the judgment of Abdul Malik came out, I said this whole thing was not even necessary. The judgment was just not necessary because both the judgment tried to preserve the tenure of the state executives. Then the Congress itself does not intend to interfere with that tenure. It also intends to preserve that tenure. So this whole thing is like fighting for nothing. It's mere academic
Barrister, let's look at it this way too, because for the state executive, this might just be survival. You've already had congresses, people have been elected, and you mentioned that it just remains swearing in. Don't you think that they had to move just to protect themselves in case that swearing in comes in before the expiration?
No, yeah.
Self-preservation.
Yes. That is why I don't, when you notice, I'm only saying that it was not necessary on the part of the party, not on the part of those state executives.
Okay.
Of course, there could be apprehension. This is Nigeria. Anything could happen. That fear could have been there. But what I'm saying, the party who conducted the Congress, who had the intention that, no, my blame now is on the party. Like, there's no need. There wasn't any need, because if your intention are stated openly that, okay, no, this person will not assume power until the tenure of this war had elapsed, then what was now the whole, it wasn't just necessary. Then when the judgment of Justice Abdul Malik came out, all you needed to do is, okay, we'll comply with it and explain even the party's intention on air, not to start doing appeal, in my personal opinion, except the other issues I'm not aware of. If these are simply said the issues I am aware of, I think that there's no necessary.
So your conclusion is that this particular one is self-inflicted. But beyond that, ADCC has some other court cases. Presently, the Nephew Bala matter, still at the Court of Appeal and all that. The other opposition parties have their court cases. How do you think this will impact on their preparations for the next election?
Yeah. See, if we take it back to the time of Ali Modu Sharif as to stroke this from Kaduna,
Ahmed Makarfi,
Ahmed Makarfi, the torso
in PDP,
leadership in PDP and all that. The Supreme Court saved Nigerian democracy. I expect this same Supreme Court to take that same steps to save Nigerian democracy. We all know that this Bala Gombe is just an orchestrated attempt to frustrate opposition, like it's been done to every other opposition. One of your speakers said it's only APC that tends not to have issues. No, it's because APC is the only party now that have coercive power to deal with errant members. If APC is not the ruling party today, you would know that there may even be worse than other opposition power. The loopholes is them, but the problem now, because of the coercive power of the government and how this government tends to use power, you would know that what is just saving APC is because they are the ruling party, not because they don't have issues.
Okay.
Now, I believe the Supreme Court will come to the stage, because if you look at the facts in that of Bala Mohammed, I thought I said Bala Gombe, he was there when in all the meetings that led to David Mark and others coming in. He signed the necessary documents, caught on video. Then he goes home. He never took the action within the shortest period. He waited for like several months, thought about the gains and profits of his decisions, or retracting on his decisions. Then he came, of course, obviously sponsored.
And it is within his rights to change his mind if he feels there are perceived wrongs.
It's within everyone's right to make a right or wrong decisions. It's within everyone's right to bury their integrity. It's within my right and my choice to uphold my integrity or not. It's within my right or to either promote my dignity or not. It is in my right to give myself self-respect or not.
But Bala Gombe,
right?
Sorry.
Don't make it right or wrong.
Okay, but Barrister Nephew. Barrister Itodo.
He said,
apologies, sir. So you are a member of the ADC, so I can see the passion with which you're speaking now. You believe strongly that someone has thrown the, like the English will say, spanner into the spokes, and everything seems to be going haywire. But like Amechi also said, Mr. Bala Gombe may have gone home and said, this thing, I don't know what came over me that I was at all those events, signing papers. And he went back to the books of his party and said, we did a wrong there. I won't be part of it. And he has exercised his right not to be part of it by going to court.
It doesn't, not to be part of it. It's not about right. It's about facts. The fact is, he was part of it.
Okay, let's allow the courts to decide these issues. But let me get your perspective on within your party. You say you're not a member of the National Working Committee, but you are aligned with the party. You're preparing for elections, and the party is also having some litigations. How are they balancing this whole thing?
It has always been the culture of Nigerian politics to have litigation even before election. We can say certain things now to dabble into the affairs of the judiciary. It is the judiciary's duty to save the nation's democracy. These facts are before them. I can't start saying things that seems as if I'm not taking over the bench. The judiciary will make, I believe, will make the appropriate decision. There's never been an election that there have not been pre-election matters. There's never been an election, in all, including APC, there are a lot of pre-election matters. Despite that, election is going to come, it's coming over, or it's coming up. So whatever it is, we'll wait for the court to make certain pronouncement. But I know the court will save Nigerian democracy.
Now, let me ask you, how will this impact Atiku's presidential bid?
Hopefully, we'll be positive about it. Like I said, the court will save our democracy. It happened during the time of McCarthy and Ali Sharif. We're hopeful that the court will do the needful and will make the rightful decision in upholding our democracy. Because you cannot come, sit in a committee, sit in the Congress, make certain decisions, then you go home, there are ways I could profit from this if I retract. Then come in. No, the court will look at that. You can't waive your rights and come up to eat it up later.
The fact that we have several pre-election cases, you have established it, and it didn't start today, speaks volumes about internal democracy, organization, and operations of political parties. Certain interests within these parties appear to hijack and exclude others, leading to this. I see political parties as the building blocks of our democracy. Perhaps we should devote more time to and efforts towards reforming our political parties. As we are reforming our electoral system, we should spend more time on reforming the political parties, because the pillars of our democracy, once we get it right, it will rub off positively on the wider electoral system.
I agree with you in totality. I agree with you. There are a lot that needs to be done in our political space, especially in our political party. Nobody is saying that all the parties are doing right now. Nobody. Because pre-election, although the fact that they are pre-election, it doesn't mean that the pre-election matters. It doesn't mean that the particular primary was not conducted right. How many of those pre-elections have actually succeeded? But it doesn't mean that parties have been perfect. There are a lot to be done from the pre-election, from the party stage, before the general election. Nobody is disputing that. If you go through all the election, there's no way you will not have your grievances. That we're even party member does not mean we don't have one or two grievances around one or two elections. But it's just that when it's now the decision of the people and the decision of the party, you have no choice than to apply in the interest of democracy. And if you are dissatisfied with it, the court is now the final say. That is why nobody is preventing anybody from going to court.
Okay.
And that is why the courts are there. Where there seem to be grievances, go there. If the court don't say, no, it is this person, then, of course, the party will accept it. The party will throw their weight behind that person.
We'll have to thank you so much, George Itodo, for giving us your time today. George Itodo is a lawyer and a member of the ADC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here.
He has made some very, very valid points. In fact, he was able to address the issue. But one other aspect that we should also look at is why some people position themselves in political parties to be hijacked, to wreak havoc within these political parties.
That's what solution we'll have to find. That's why I talked about strengthening
because
our
it's not a matter of whether
a few will not hijack the entire structure and take
as members of the
decisions
party
that will be binding on the rest of
Sometimes
the
it's he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And many other times, people who could be trusted can turn out to be something else. You know, when you have strange bedfellows, anything is bound to happen. And I can tell you, not just 2027 election, all other subsequent elections, you will see such cases because you have people of questionable character, greedy individuals, and what have you among those who are participating in the system.
I like the point Mustafa made about strange bedfellows.
Yes.
Very key, because I looked at Ralph Wolfsu and a couple of members of his party when this, I remember 2023, 2003, ADC. I remember. You know, a couple of them trying to get seats and all of that in the assembly. They ran with the party up until this time. Then some persons who have eaten all sorts of, some Yoruba people say, it means you cannot eat fufu here, go and eat amala here, that your stomach
The
will rot.
jumpologist.
Yes. So probably that's what Mustafa is also alluded to, that the people that came in, probably, different mindsets. But of course, this is Nigeria.
Shola?
Any government.
We'll have to go to our
Shola,
news now.
Shola, you see, the example you gave about 2023.
No, 2003.
And three, okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's
23
also
years.
go to 2023. The Ralph Mosu-led executive also did some things that some party members are still mourning over till today. If you remember, in 2023, ADC was almost the leading party in Oyo State.
Yes.
In Oyo State. But what happened? Some members of the National Assembly who couldn't get tickets from APC and PDP went to the then executive led by Ralph Mosu, and they sought out the tickets of the party, not to the original members of the party who had labored to build the party.
Okay.
And they are suffering part of it today because those members quickly aligned with the Mark-led executive
yes.
because they couldn't trust the Ralph Mosu.
Okay, let's go to our mails now. Let's read some of the mails we have sent to our email platform as we go to Citizens' Perspectives.
Yes, so, yeah, Musa. Yes, so we have this one from Laji Abbas Ida, from Ida local government area of Kogi State, and it says, "Dear Walter Rodney, if you were alive today, perhaps you would have replaced your earlier work, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, with a classic titled How Africans Underdeveloped Themselves.
The new theory.
Corruption, like cancer, rarely destroys in one blow. It spreads until the system itself collapses. May Nigeria never reach that point. Amen." If Mike Tyson could appear on Nigeria's voters' register, then what is impossible here? Phantom agencies, ghost institutions, budget padding, and endless recycled procurements are not innovations. They are schemes designed by a few to suit the greed of the few. Who pioneered the technical robbery called budget padding? Who created ghost establishments funded with public money, as Ujuejeye and Amechi Anakwe highlighted last week? The uncomfortable truth is that the PDP initiated them, and the APC has upgraded many of the same practices into high definition. Our institutions are increasingly seen as mirrors of the corruption they were created to fight. Instead of accountability, impunity often prevails. Nigeria remains a painful paradox. Too rich to be this poor, yet too poorly governed to realize its immense potential. Our greatest tragedy is not a lack of talent, but a persistent misuse of it. Victor A.B. sent this one in from Bayelsa, and it says, "Dear platform crew, I was disappointed with yesterday's analysis. It was more about tribe and religion rather than performance. Election is around the corner, and I just can't believe the concern of the media is what tribe, religion, and region the candidates are from. In a country where 30% adults of voting rights are uneducated, such narratives will surely mislead them. How can anybody ever think that in a country that speaks of unity, he says, I want a president or deputy to come from a particular tribe and religion to target a particular number of voters, when the Constitution clearly said you need 25% votes from a good number of states? If you ask me, I think it's high time we stopped using religion, tribe, and region to identify any politician. Rather, we should start using performance and antecedents.
We are in Nigeria. I don't know. Okay, let me take this particular bill. Anefio Kunta has written it. The call on the international communities, United Nations, and other related bodies to investigate the Oyo State children and teachers' abduction by Governor Makinde is a step in the right direction. I do not understand the federal government for slamming or going against the governor for making such calls. What is the fear of the federal government? Are they the ones that stage the abduction? In life, if someone dies, we normally call for autopsy to unravel the cause of death. The same thing should always be done in the case of kidnapping and insecurity of any kind, to really know who are those wicked persons behind this act, who might want to use the abduction and life of innocent persons in the country to play dirty politics. Oyo State children and teachers' abduction should not be business as usual, where we only celebrate the release of the victims without knowing the root causes and those behind these atrocities. Enough, Anefio Kunta says, is enough.
The first mail is very interesting. He mentioned Walter Rodney, but for those of you political scientists like Amechi and Akwi, you know that the new theory is Africa and the developing Africa in the past 40, 50. Maybe many people like you need to go into that research.
And one of the writers talked about the ideal and the real. The real in Nigeria is that religion, tribe, play politics, but the idea is that it shouldn't. And as journalists, we should strive towards the ideal. If you want changes and better order, you highlight these ideas. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of my colleagues, my name is Amici Anapwe. Have a good time.
Yeah.